entity not admitted without parents or guardian.
In this house, what you don't know will hurt you. It was to be a getaway dream. It's become a runaway nightmare. He has been awaiting the arrival of his new guests. One by one they are disappearing. One by bloody one. When you move to this house, before you get locked in,
There's someone in here,
leave the
Mommy!
fine friends.
Mommy, hurry!
You may have just
Get me!
mortgaged your life. Due to the graphic nature of this film, no one under 18 will be admitted. Out by the cemetery!
Welcome, fans of fantastic films, to the Drive-In Asylum late movie. What if I did the whole show like Brother Theodore?
What if you did it like him, Bill?
And you did it too.
I don't know
cemetery.
how we could keep up with these voices.
I don't know how he talked like that all the time.
Oh.
Anyway, welcome everybody to our show, this 89th show that we've done. The
Whoa.
Drive-In Asylum late movie. Sometimes, usually called the Drive-In Asylum double feature, except on weekends when I work. So
Yeah.
then it's just one movie. Sorry. And Sam, you had an early morning today, didn't you?
Yes, we did a flea market inside the Brownsville Drive-In, which is a 3-screen drive-in. Doctor Strange is playing there right now if you're into it. But it's a very, very old school drive-in, and it really makes the Riverside look like the cleanest drive-in ever. Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice. It's an older drive-in. It's a little ramshackle by comparison, but yeah. So we found out the other day that we can get a table for $10. So sold some stuff, and somebody bought my copy of Antichrist, which was real cool. And yeah, so it was fun, except we had to leave the house at 5 a.m., which was not fun.
Yeah.
But all told, went pretty well. No one was hurt. The tent we bought worked out. It's nice.
When you left your house, was it by a cemetery?
Matt asked, where can he get an official Drive-In Asylum shirt, Bill? That's a good question.
I only made like about 15 of these ones that I'm wearing, and I gave them out to contributors, and I think I sold like 1 or 2 in the Etsy shop, but that's all that I ever did of that shirt. And I'm due for another. What's that?
Maybe there'll be another one at some point.
I'm due for a reprint. It was the other design that everybody got excited about, and again, the first time I put those up in the store, nobody bought them, and I ended up giving most of them away. So I'm glad to see there's a little interest. I'll do a new run of shirts real soon.
I am watching while I am waiting for the show to start. I'm going to be watching it on the awesome Blue Underground lenticular Blu-ray. You can see the house kind of moving and stuff in the background. But there's 2 different poster and ad galleries on this, and there's some awesome posters. There's a really old Arrow cover from like the early 2000s that says "Step into the occult arena," really big on it, which is super exciting. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch. Obviously, in case you didn't know that I like Lucio Fulci movies, I mean, let's talk about it, right?
Dustin's got an offer out there. Contact him. He has one
Yeah.
just like the one I'm wearing.
That seems like a bargain. You're going to have to go to Florida to get it and do whatever the other thing is.
Yeah, Blue Underground, Bill Lustig. Should I tell my Bill Lustig story?
Please do.
I got a nice message from Bill Lustig on Etsy, and he was like, how do I go about getting every copy of your magazine? And I was like, well, you're Bill Lustig, so of course I'll send them to you. So I got his address, and I put together a package of every single issue of the magazine and sent it to him, and I never heard from him again.
Oh.
That was a couple years ago too, so.
Oh man.
Hopefully that duck will come back to me one day, but in the meantime.
Yeah, it might be someday. He's just sitting there and I can't imagine it's a clean apartment, and say, oh, I probably should get back to Bill.
I can't imagine. That was a low blow, Sam.
It was not. That doesn't mean a good or bad. I mean, a dirty desk is not the sign of a closed mind. It's a sign of an open mind. But
the truth.
Yeah.
As Joan once said, nothing is clean.
No.
This whole place is
I
a
am
mess.
the Joan mindset. Every time I clean the bathroom, I'm always like, handsies and kneesies. You got to get down there and scrub it.
Scrub.
I think of it every time I scrub my bathroom. Like, this is how Joan would be happy. She wouldn't. It wouldn't be good enough, but she would be happy that I made. Maybe she'd be happy I did the effort. So we'll see.
I think Dustin already got an offer on his shirt. So.
Oh man, making love connections and shirt connections.
This is a great show. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it really is. We're doing it all. So,
what else this week? What else was exciting about this week? I know you had some news.
Did I? What was my news?
Your interview?
Oh, yeah. I got to interview Vernon Wells this week, who we all know is Wheeze from Road Warrior, and he's also Bennett from Commando. And we talked for about 45 minutes. It was really great. And his Australian accent is so deep that it cannot be translated by my program that does the, what do you call it? Whenever you
Otter.
Otter. Otter was like, I don't know what language this is. You're gonna have to listen to the interview yourself, which is pretty great. And then I also yesterday interviewed James Duvall, who's in all Greg Araki's movies like Nowhere and Doom Generation, which he made Nowhere the same week that he was making, same month he made Independence Day. So he's like, I was going from this Greg Araki $1 million movie about drugs to $80 million movie about aliens. So he's like, that was pretty wild. He's also the bunny, Frank the Bunny in Donnie Darko, and he's in Gone in 60 Seconds, Go, tons of stuff. He's like 200 movies on his resume. So that was a blast, like super. It might be Wes instead of Wheeze. I'm already drinking, right? But anyway, so look for those interviews this week. They're in a movie coming out, an anthology horror that's coming out pretty soon, and got to do some cool interviews. But I got to Vernon Wells, super nice guy. Seeing his number come up on your caller ID is a little intimidating. So I'm like, man, I've seen him in so many movies. Oh, he's also in Vernon Wells is also in Inner Space, and the end of Weird Science. He pretty much plays his same character as Road Warrior again, except legally he wasn't allowed to wear the same costume. So they changed it like a little bit before. And then this week I'll be interviewing Austin, who did the Canon Film Guide. The new, the bigger second Canon Film Guide is out now. I'll be showing it on the site, but it is like 1,200 pages. The last one was like 300. This one's like a brick. He did a comparison online of it. There's a lot. If you're into action movies, that's a really cool one.
Is it going to be as tough to read in one sitting as Nightmare USA?
No, I mean, it's as big as I'm still getting through Nightmare USA.
Yeah, there's still parts of Nightmare USA I haven't even read yet.
But what a great book. I mean, honestly, Nightmare USA is like the reference guide you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I don't know how Stephen Thrower had a life while he was putting that together. He
I
couldn't have had
love
a
it
life.
because he often talks about he discovered those movies while he was doing amphetamines. And he would just take a lot of drugs and watch whatever weird stuff he could rent. And I'm into that. It's a good life. I like that. So yeah. Also, his I think a couple of his books are coming back into print. His Jess Franco book is back in print, which is another brick-sized book. I mean, it is a monstrous book. So, yeah. Vince, I agree with you. Avenging Force is great. Also, Kino Lorber just got a deal to get some Paramount stuff and potentially some more canon stuff. So they actually have a canon, what do you call it? Another canon Blu-ray. I can't remember which one it is with Billy D. Williams in it. That comes out like this week. But Kino keeps they keep making these deals where I love whenever labels like Mill Creek was doing that too, where they're getting a lot of the Columbia catalog. Where Mill Creek used to be these like cheap, public domain things, and now they actually have like deals to get blues with like somewhat major labels. So yeah, so pretty cool. This next week is Fred Olen Ray week on the site, and I watched about 40 Fred Olen Ray movies, and wow, that was it's been a week. Some good ones. Sometimes I'm like, is this a Jim Morneski movie or is it a Fred Olen Ray movie? Who can say? I mean, the overlap is there. So I imagine it's somewhere there's an Italian kid that is like, you know what? I hate Bruno Mattei, but I love Fred Olen Ray. And I think I got to talk to that kid. We'll kind of share it out. So, but anyway, I did find a couple that I really dig. So I'll have lots of reviews on it.
Scalps is my kind of jam.
Yeah, I like Scalps a lot. Also, Bruno Mattei has a movie Scalps, so it crosses over nicely.
Yeah, I always see that come up in searches when I'm like, no, I'm looking for the one I know.
Yeah,
I've never
exactly.
seen Bruno Mattei's Scalps.
He shot that and Blonde Apache or White Apache the same time with Claudia Fragasso. They're almost the same movie with the same cast. So and now there's 3 movies to confuse you. It gets sometimes. I've learned that this last week when I finished. I've been doing the Javelin movies and starting another week of Italian westerns. I'm like, it's always a question. Thank God for Letterboxd. I'm like, have I seen this? Because I've seen it under this title, not this title. So I did watch a breakdancing women in prison movie this week, which really is the most on-brand thing I think I've said in a long time. It was shot in English, translated into Italian, and released as Breakdancia. Wow, it's not good. If you're going to make a women in prison movie and not have it be sleazy, but have it be about like solid gold dancers, just like putting together routines in prison, maybe not. When is Trolley Night? That's a great question, Jeff.
Vivian Vance Night has to come first. It's only fair, ladies first.
Right?
I had some exciting things happen this week too.
Oh, wonderful!
I think both of which I might have already talked about on the show last week. I can't remember. Well, no, I can't really remember what I talked about on how much of it I had accomplished by last week's show. But I've spoken with Marlena Lustig from the film Scream Bloody Murder, the one with the mannequins, not the one with the guy with a hook for a hand. The one that was, yes. How can you choose a favorite between those two choices? But the one I'm talking about was AKA My Brother Has Bad Dreams, and I got to talk to Marlena Lustig, who plays the sister. It's basically a 3 or 4 person play, and she's the female lead in it. And I spoke to the director, Bob Emery, who was so gracious and kind. We had a really long talk about Scream Bloody Murder, Ghetto Freaks, aka Sign of Aquarius. He had an amazing career doing documentaries, and he did a series for the Stars Network called The Directors. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, there were 91 episodes, and he talked to 91 directors and did like this hour-long documentary on each one, like Cronenberg, David Lynch, Steven Spielberg. Like Bob Emery knows all those guys and did a documentary about and worked with them. So he's full of stories, as you may know. So that's going to be...
Cronenberg has a new movie that is going to play Khan.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, right.
Crimes of the Future. He said that he fully expects people to walk out and throw up in the theater. I say, let's bring that movie on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what you got.
So that's going to be in Drive-In Asylum number 24. Once we get through the 1981 yearbook, which is in production as we speak. So it's underway.
I'm excited because I am very excited to do my part of the 1981 yearbook because I'm not doing a horror movie. That's my teaser. So
Yeah,
I'm doing a very to me at least, a very culturally significant movie that changed pop culture worldwide. So that's my tease. It's not Empire Strikes Back. It's still a movie that wouldn't play in a reputable theater. Don't get like all of a sudden like
right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean I wrote about Italian football commando movies before. Nothing above three stars on IMDb is going to be in any of my reviews. But you know,
Ed, you're a serious fan. He's watching us in two different places. Are the broadcasts synced, Ed, or is there a delay from one to the other?
Are you watching them in 2 eyes so that it appears in 3D?
Wow. That's an exciting idea. We need to figure out a way to do the show in 3D. And we could do like odorama cards that smell like alcohol and cigars.
Also, yesterday I found I watched a series of videos online. What's that Kennywood one? What was that called, baby? Defunct Land, which is all about theme parks. And Kennywood is Pittsburgh theme park. Kennywood is on this week with the Garfield ride. Why was there a Garfield ride for 20 years in Kennywood? My favorite ride. I will never go back. There's no Garfield now. And Garfield's eyes got knocked out after a few years, and all the 3D effects just stopped working after a while.
Are you saying that you were a fan of the Garfield ride?
100% fan of the Garfield ride. The only ride I like.
Sam. We're having a Siskel and Ebert moment about this because I was crushed when they rethemed that ride. For those of you who don't know, it's a ride at Kennywood Park, a local amusement park in Pittsburgh. And this is one of the only surviving old mill rides, like an interior log flume. And it used to be themed like a haunted house, and it had all these, or it was actually like a haunted mine in Western town, like a ghost town full of skeletons.
It is again.
Well, yeah, they put it back to the way it was before. But for 20 years, it was rethemed as Garfield's Nightmare, and you sat in a boat and went through it, and wearing 3D glasses, and there was stuff painted on the tunnel walls. I don't know. I guess I was just bitter, and I didn't.
Well, but here's something I learned about it that is a reason for that. Through the 40s, it was a Cats and Jammer Kids, Blondie, and Dagwood ride for almost most of the 40s. So there was a precursor of it being a comic strip ride before that. So it's the only ride in Kennywood I liked because I would talk like Garfield for most of the ride, which I'd be like, oh, John, son is coming. And I just I also love that Lorenzo Music, who's the voice of Garfield, was a huge stoner. So which is pretty rad. And also, the doorman on Rhoda. But I kind of love that he was in there. But yeah, that's.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah. And thanks for getting the numbers up. Yeah.
We appreciate it. If you haven't already, click the like button. And if you really like us, share.
And if you didn't ride the Garfield ride, I'll say something nice about the Garfield ride. It is Garfield goes to sleep and mice decide to infiltrate his dreams. And my brother has bad dreams. Garfield has bad dreams of pizzas chasing him and dogs chasing him. And at one point, a fish eats him. It's a pretty dark ride, but also the entire story was about how many people lost their virginity inside the Garfield ride. And he ended it with, there's a lot of gay stuff that happened in the Garfield dark ride.
I knew somebody who worked at Kennywood and who worked in that ride, but when it was the old mill. And he told me the same thing. He was like, you don't realize that there are people in there and they're right by you. But since your attention is diverted, like you're looking at these things that have been set up there and it's all dark and it's lighted exactly so that you can't see them, but they're literally like right there. They could reach out and touch you. And he was like, people would go by doing like sexual things and they thought nobody was watching in there.
The guy who created it built a Gmail address just to get stories, and he said he got about 500 stories from people that sent stuff in, and like he literally did this. Like he's like, you can pause it if you want, and it was all like redacted of things that happened. He goes, and these are some of. He's like, I'm really trying to keep my monetization going on YouTube, so I can't share a lot of these stories. But there were a lot of these stories, and they said one of the things people would do would be to hold your hands out and stop the boat. Like someone would say, this is very much like the soaking story I told in a different way because it's a water ride. Someone in the back of the boat would hold the boat so that the boat wasn't moving for a little bit, and that would give you a little more time in the dark ride.
So someone had to be complicit. Like how many people were
good.
involved in this?
Yeah, exactly. Who can say? It's a threesome or foursome, but like only two are participating through
a many moresome.
Yeah, or because if people is everybody soft swinging within the room. Do you know what I mean? If two people are in the room doing it, it's like, you know, when two are there, God is there. Is that what's happening in Garfield or the old mill?
Also, now you make it sound like a prayer meeting.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of people were praying, saying, "Oh God." Also, if you go to Kennywood over Halloween, there's a Jason 4D movie that you can see. It's a 12-minute long series of scenes from Friday the 13th 3, all the kills from 3, with fog and some strobing effects, so you can have a seizure while you see the first movie with Jason with the hockey mask.
Look at this lovely image for House by the Cemetery, our movie tonight.
I love this tagline so much. It's actually up on my TV right now.
Yeah, I'm really pissed off because I found an ad from the UK of House by the Cemetery playing. It was on a double bill with something else fabulous, and I seem to have lost all that stuff. So I'm really kind of annoyed right now. I just thought of one place where it might be. In the meantime, look at this gorgeous ad.
Well, if you think about it, 1981 is going to be, you know, the upcoming issue of the zine. Like Lucio Fulci had in 1981 that directors dream of, right?
Like, yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like, what an amazing time of like, and I think about it now that, you know, we hold these movies, maybe me, hold these movies sancrosanct and like, you know, but did people know in 1981 that these were all him? That, like, you know, in 1981, he wasn't considered the Godfather of gore or like, you know, have this like, oh, Fulci thing about him. And, you know, in the same year, he put out The Black Cat, The Beyond, and House by the Cemetery. And it's like, today we're like, wow, that's amazing. In 1981, there were so many movies coming out. Did people even realize that these were all coming from one source?
Yeah, there's a couple of times like, well, that's actually a great segue into this ad that I found that I know you're absolutely going to love. This is from 1984.
Oh,
so
Lord.
You could have gone to the Decatur Drive-In and saw two Fulci classics back to back. The U.S. edits, but you know, that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get what you get, but I mean, I still like that even though they're the U.S. edits, they had to put that the disclaimer, which you'll see in a lot of these ads. Probably for good reason.
Why is that, Sam, do you think?
I mean, a knife goes through the back of someone's head out their mouth 30 seconds into this movie. Spoiler.
I think this is from a showcase.
Showcase cinemas.
Yeah, like somewhere. It might have been in Hartford.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure that. No, it didn't play the showcase in Hartford. I'm not sure where this is from, but it's cut out of a larger ad and doesn't show the theater. Mm-hmm. That usually means it's a showcase. Because the showcase, they were the ones that were into putting their ads all together in a block of like 7 films. And of course, you know, of course, it was all at the same theater.
I would cut that whole page out as a kid and just stare at it and be like, how can I get there?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big deal. Like, this was a ritual as when I was a kid anyway, of like looking for stuff like this. And a movie like House by the Cemetery would come out. There was no way I was going to convince an adult to take me to see something like that. Like, every time I asked, they would laugh you out of the room, you know.
The first time I saw this was actually at the Riverside Drive-In, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. That is exciting.
Yeah.
Sam, I had no idea.
Yeah, believe it or not, I had not seen it. And I lost my mind. I was sold seconds into it.
Wow, that is exciting. I didn't know that.
I love the burst, the all new terror burst in here. The warning, the knife in front. There's so much in the great tagline. Oh,
if only the house really did look like that.
And I agree with Jeff. Like that, this ad would have frightened me beyond belief. Also, the same house from Ghost House, in case it looks super familiar, and the same library from The Beyond. Let's be economical and use the same sets.
Oh, of course. What do you think? Money grows on trees? Not even in Italy.
Not even in. This is my favorite genre. Having maniacs from Italy loose somewhere in America making a movie is my favorite genre.
Look at this one.
Oh, wow! Is Horror Planet? What do you call it?
It is. What do you call it?
Galaxy of Terror.
No, it's in Seminoid.
Oh wow! Okay.
Horror Planet. So you could see a Norman J. Warren film and a Fulci film.
What a time to be alive at the Paramus Drive-In on Route 4.
Yeah, it's well, of course, at the time, these movies were looked down upon by most people.
Yeah.
I hear a hollow sound like you're in your kitchen.
Another Italian movie.
I hear a hollow sound like you're in your kitchen.
That would be it.
Does that mean that you're ready to do a cocktail?
I sure am.
Let me show this one more ad. Another lineup that's sure. Well, okay, I guess it's the same lineup, but with an additional feature. Invasion of the Flesh Hunters, a.k.a. Cannibal Apocalypse.
Yeah, wow. What a night. Someone is going to puke in your car. Probably by the last one.
Yeah, all the Paranimals were at the Paramus Drive-In. And that's it for the ad gallery. Anyway, because I can't resist the prospect of a cocktail.
Yeah, this drink's called Bob. It's simple. It's just called Bob.
Bob.
I'm real protective of Bob, too, by the way. I know his dubbing is ridiculous, and I know he's really annoying. But I think that's a magical and super entertaining part of this movie that is really horrifying in a lot of ways, and then there's just this weird kid with a girl's voice in it. I think we should celebrate the weirdness of life. So that's my soapbox on this movie. Anyway, let's make Bob's drink. This is going to start with an ounce of cherry brandy, and I had to hunt the store for this, and I found out that it's in the cheap drunk section.
Oh.
Ooh.
Who
Becca
knew?
found it, yeah. So we're going to do an ounce of that. And then we're going to do an ounce of 99 bananas. Of course, banana liqueur of your choice, but that's the one that pays to be on the show. I'm just kidding. They don't pay for anything. All right. Ounce of that. We're going to do an ounce of amaretto. This is one of those drinks that I have absolutely no idea what it's going to taste like. So we'll see. Ounce of amaretto, and then we get some orange juice out of the exciting fridge. I had to be that guy tonight and wear a Fulci shirt because I am a super fan of this movie.
I'm actually not making the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Ow. I got something under my fingernail. The gore has already started on tonight's program. I'm going to make sort of like a pina colada. Ooh. But I'm using this vodka. I'm putting some vodka in it with the rum. And I got this bottle of Crystal Head vodka.
Nice.
Which is really good vodka. I thought this was sort of like, it's all about the skull bottle, but it's really good vodka.
It's Dan Aykroyd's vodka.
Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, absolutely. As you can hear, I poured a lot in there, so don't be shy.
Yeah, I'm going to add a little more to this here, and then I'm going to mix it up. I watched Bar Rescue clips all day today, Bill, so I'm super jazzed about doing it. I get nuts when John gets upset about a bar. If a bar is screwed up and he comes in and just loses his mind, I think it's the best.
This is your legacy.
I gave you this cocktail program.
Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a lifetime subscription to Bartender. I've got this tiki glass to drink my pina colada out of because it was hot here. Instead of the house by the cemetery, I'm pretending I'm in the house by the beach.
Nice. Well, a Pazuzu to y'all. Look at that pour. By the way, Steve, if you go to my site, I share the cocktails a couple days before on the site, but I'll share it out on the. I'll tag the group. I usually tag the Groovy Doom Facebook page on them, and also there's a letterbox list of every one of the drinks too, which I'll share.
And every movie we ever watched.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was the okay? So the first time you saw House by the Cemetery was at the drive-in. The first time I saw House by the Cemetery was on VHS. I rented it like back, in the day. And the thing that I remember the most about it is that it didn't make any sense. Because I was like, this doesn't make any sense because there were murders that happened in it, and then later on the characters who were murdered were alive again, and I didn't realize that the reels were out of order. On the first VHS pressing of this, I guess they got the reels out of order and nobody noticed, and it went out like that. I don't know what label that was. Maybe Vestron put it out.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So I know Vestron put one out, and I know some people that have the Vestron though, and the reels are in order. So maybe it was something that they corrected.
Yeah, it was early when it came out, and it's funny because, like you said, who's alive, who's dead, and it kind of there's a lot of typical Italian movie. There's a lot of like moments in this movie that don't fully pay off, so it's even stranger when you see it that much out of order.
But I have to say that this isn't the kind of movie that you get involved in a story. This is one of those things. It's like, this is really weird the whole time you're watching it, which kind of like it's something, I don't know, for me anyway. Like I had to see it a couple of times before I even really understood what was supposed to be going on in them, or what I think is supposed to be going on in the movie. I could be wrong.
Someone told me once that a lot of these movies played outdoor tents in Italy, like almost like how we'd see a drive-in movie, but you would just walk in and drink and enjoy it. And a lot of times, like that's why so much happens. It's like, well, we have to keep people's attention to these 5-minute bursts of just absolute insanity.
Yeah,
and that's why these things happen the way that they do. So that maybe that makes a little more sense. Maybe not.
There's a really nasty murder in this movie too, and I can watch it now and it doesn't really bother me all that much. But the first, I've probably seen this movie about 10 times. The first couple times that I saw it, it really upset me. And this is one of those movies too. Like I've noticed this in Italian movies, especially with Fulci. He was really into depicting these female victims and even male victims. All of the victims just stood there motionless while they were attacked by whatever this zombie or demon or whatever it was. And this is no exception. There are people that you're like, why aren't you fighting back? What are you doing with your hands while this is happening to you?
Here's my theory of it, is that these are very Lovecraftian movies, and just seeing these creatures has destroyed their minds and allows them to really come through, and it paralyzes them with fear, right? So I know it doesn't make sense. Why would you lay there while spiders eat your face? Why wouldn't you get up?
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, like there's in Zombie, there's a couple of scenes where zombies grab, like the one zombie grabs Susan, and she just sort of stands there while it bites her on the neck, and it happens again in the hospital. Like the female nurse, she kind of like sees one and screams and closes her eyes and goes like this. Like, geez, you're just trying to help.
Yeah, these are absolute movies, as Fulci himself told and said in an interview. You know what I mean? They don't. That's it. I think that was his excuse for, like, not every moment makes sense. Very few moments maybe make sense within them. But there's a lot but one of the things that doesn't make sense in this to me is something in every haunted house movie, right? Because Norman Boyle, the father in this, he knows that his colleague, Dr. Peterson, killed his lover and then killed himself, maybe, in the same house, right? And he just moves his family right in. Even though Bob has a nervous breakdown, he's like, look, some girl inside a painting is telling me not to move into this house. And they're like, oh, Bob.
Nobody takes the child seriously in this movie. This is another one of those kind of films too, which is.
Go ahead.
I think that's a very real thing, because people do tend to not take children seriously when they tell them that something's wrong. They're just like, oh, well, they're just a kid and they don't know. So I think that's a very, I wouldn't say it makes it suspenseful, but it's a familiar theme, like in The Fly, where the little boy finds the fly with the human head and he keeps trying to get his mother to look at it, and she won't. Like, she won't even look at what this kid is telling her to look at. And as a result of that, she loses the one thing that could help her husband regain his humanity, like her inability to pay attention to her own child. And there's a lot of that in this movie too. I think, obviously the kid knew what was wrong all along.
I think the other thing that's really interesting in this movie too is, like, my favorite fright in it, I think I talked about it previously in the show, is that Bob can kind of see into these photos and see the girl from the past, like, living within the house in the photos and her warning him. And, like, that's probably why Fulci's my favorite of the Italian directors, is that he finds these moments of surrealism. And that's like a thing that's very frightening to me as a child. Like, I always worried that TVs would turn on by themselves, or that photos would come to life and that I would be either trapped within them or, like, pulled within them. And that scene is really disquieting. And that's probably one of my favorite scenes in it. It's funny because I read a quote once that said, like, Argento was like an artist trying to be a filmmaker by accident. And Fulci's the exact opposite. He's like a filmmaker. He made 60 movies before this, but he would occasionally find moments of art that work into his movies. And you're all like, kind of insane. And this is the same actress. I saw Paul asked from the Beyond in this. It's Catherine McCall. She's in City of the Living Dead too. So she's in all three of Fulci's so-called Apocalypse trilogy, which are non-connected, but all very similar movies made within, like 14, 15 months.
Maybe she's the common thread through all those films. She's the same person having a new nightmare every night.
Yeah. The worst one is her being buried and Christopher George trying to pull her out with a pickaxe. That's like the scariest of dreams, where it's coming inches away from your face.
That happens in this movie too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not exactly the same way, but there's a very similar moment in House by the Cemetery.
Yeah.
House by the Cemetery. Say it the right way.
Norman is Paolo Malco. He's in Escape from the Bronx and New York Ripper, which New York Ripper is Fulci's next movie after that. And boy, if you're easily offended, don't watch that movie. It's like, if you're like, hey, I like SVU, but I'd like to see everything that they talk about, cool, you should probably watch that movie. Probably, Bill and I were talking about before we started, perhaps the best known person in this movie is the real estate agent. It's Dagmar Lasseter from Hatchet from the Honeymoon. But she was in a ton of stuff. But yeah, she's I would say probably, at least from the in the Italian world, probably the best known actress in this, other than maybe Anya Pironi, who is the babysitter. She's from Inferno, which we showed a while ago. You'll recognize her from Inferno, and Tenebrae. And Fulci delights in killing her in his movies. She died in a few of his movies. This one, pretty rough.
Yeah, it just so happens she dies a horrible death. And Dagmar Lassender's death is the one that really bothers me the most. So, is anybody in the chat new to this movie?
Yeah.
I didn't ask that yet. So, is this going to be the first time you watched House by the Cemetery? If so, let us know.
Yeah. My favorite thing is I'll talk about it when we come back, but keep watch for the quote at the end of this movie.
Don't get too attached to it.
Yeah, I love it that it's in there. And my original movie I wrote, this movie makes no sense whatsoever. There aren't plot holes because there's not even a plot. That's a positive review for me, I think. And if you ever see pictures of me wrestling, generally I usually wear a House by the Cemetery shirt. So I do love it. It is not for everybody, and I understand that. But again, I'm very protective of this movie. And
I
also
hasn't seen it yet. This is exciting.
Yeah. Please fill in the book report when you come back and let us know what you thought.
Oh, and Fred also, hasn't seen it?
Oh, man.
Maybe. He says maybe.
I also think this is what's cool about this movie is it's not so many Italian movies start by way of ripoff, and I don't mean that in a bad way because generally they're awesome movies that kind of go their own path, right? Like Zombie is obviously Zombie 2. It's Fulci making the next step at Dawn of the Dead. This has a little bit of The Shining, a little bit of Amityville Horror, but not really, right? And it kind of has its own. There's something going on in the basement. It's fucking nuts. And, you know what I mean? Like it's like every once in a while when you're watching it, you're like, oh, is the dad a bad dad? And like there's things that lead you to that, but really it's just about how weird it is, you know. And yeah, there are parts of it that's kind of Fulci running off on his own. And Matt, please watch Manhattan Baby. Everybody hates that movie but me. I really like it. See, Mike just said it needs to be burned at the stake. I love Manhattan Baby.
I don't know. There's not much to hang on in Manhattan Baby for me. Like there's no gore in it to speak of. It's there?
Got kids that can teleport people to a pyramid.
I'm just saying, like he's known for it. It didn't show me any of the stuff that he was really well. I expected more from it. Should I say? Yeah. I should go back and watch it again without those expectations.
Yeah, I think it's hard though because I think but you know what? Like I said, if you watched Fulci from the beginning of his career, he was primarily in the 60s known as a comedy director. He did a lot of movies with the small comedy duo. He did Those Most Secretive Agents. I just watched The Maniacs that he did. That has a ton of people in it, and it's kind of like an episodic tale of how people behave within society. And then it was really kind of known for he hit every genre. He hit, Westerns with Massacre Time, Silver Saddle, and For the Apocalypse, which is a really good late Italian Western and really dark and very gory. And 2 or 3 I really prefer his giallo movies. I guess you can kind of New York Ripper a bit. It's more slash end, but I really like Perversion Story a lot. The title is the American title of it. It's not really that perverted, but it's a really great movie. And the end is shot in San Quentin, inside the gas chambers, and that was the selling point in the American trailers that you can step within them, and I think that's really cool. He also did Don't Torture a Duckling, which is awesome, and The Psychic, 7 Notes in Black, which is really good. And Bill, another movie we saw at the drive-in, one of his giallos.
Oh, Lizard in a Woman's Skin.
Yeah, which is really good. And I agree. Like Contraband's awesome too, man. And Contraband is an incredibly violent movie. And when it ran out of money, the Mexican mafia paid for the rest of the movie because they liked it so much and loaned him all the speedboats for that movie. They also did for Demonia. They paid for a lot of Demonia too, which is kind of his carry, but has slugs in it. A lot of slugs and bugs.
The slugs are the best part, and it's another one of those why, how.
Yeah,
that's with Lucio Fulci.
And in the 70s, he was really known for like kid-friendly movies, like his White Fang movie was a huge success. And there's a lot of movies that kind of rip off White Fang. Joe D'Amato was the cinematographer on White Fang, and actually stayed in Canada. And one of his first directed movies was a ripoff of White Fang with the same crew. So it's pretty great. Yeah, he has some TV movies at the end. Conquest, which is a baffling Conan movie with way too much fog that I love. It's a movie in the beginning. I'm like, is this going to be a Fulci movie? And then a bunch of werewolves do cocaine and rip a woman in half. And I'm like, yeah, he did this one, which is pretty good. And I like all this. I mean, honestly, I can find something to love in all his movies, which is kind of cool, even if they're always not the best. But I really love. I saw Don't Torture a Duckling in theater in Italian, and wow, that movie's awesome. It's even forgivable for the wood doll at the end of it. You're like, oh, is this not a human? But that happens in the old Italian movies.
What would you say is your least favorite Fulci film? What's the one you liked the least?
It might be Voices from Beyond, which has a kind of hampered budget. I don't like Cat in the Brain. Cat in the Brain's okay. But it's also, he's taking like Sodoma's Ghost isn't good either. He's kind of taking the TV movies he did and jamming them into one narrative. So it's not as great. I really like his Warriors of 2072 a lot, though. He did a post-apocalyptic movie. And I really like Murder Rock. And I really like, what's the one that Severin put out? The Devil's, it's kind of a Jalo one. It's late too. I think the problem was near the end. It's what happens with a lot of directors is, they're either TV movies or the budget isn't good. He really fought a lot of, not making excuses, but he had incredibly negative health because he did not take care of himself at all by the end of his life. But but still, even in ones like Sodoma's Ghost that I don't like, there are parts of them like, oh, this is a cool gore effect, or and a lot of like movies near the end, it's also kind of like, is it even him doing it, or did he kind of did the Salvador Dali thing where he like kind of gave his name to it? You know what I mean? Like produced by, or like a film from, or a movie watched by Lucio Fulci, pretty much, near the end, and that's kind of like, not as much fun, but trying. Also, not Fulci, Bill, but I should bring up the new Argento movies out, Dark Glasses.
Yeah, tell us what you thought of that. You sent me some frames from it while you were watching.
I really liked it, believe it or not. Like, I think it's one of those. So I have this thing, right? Because that's the thing we always debate, right? It was like, when did Argento's movies not kind of stop working for you? And I think most people will admit, like maybe post-opera, not, either the budget suffered or there were problems or the movies aren't the same. But, when you think about it, how many movies, same as Fulci, how many directors can you name that did at least 5 movies that you can say, I love those movies. Like, I would watch those movies at any time. And I think both of these directors, they often get compared to each other, but they're incredibly different directors. But Argento, I can name, he has a run of movies that all work really well, right? And even the ones that aren't great, there's moments to like about them. Again, same as I said, is Fulci. But I really like Dark Glasses a lot. It's his shortest movie. It's 85 minutes. Parts of it still look like a TV movie. They aren't, like, if you're coming to it to get that Tenebrae kind of like, wow, he built this giant crane that went over a camera and keeps whipping into windows, and like the look of the movie is more important than the story. That doesn't happen. But it really works, and I dig it. And John, it may not have worked for you, but I think that Jalo and Dracula 3D are not good movies at all, and only really got made because of his name. This movie is way better. I would say it's his best movie since Sleepless, maybe. I really like Stendhal Syndrome too. So it's like it doesn't have the crazy looks in the 3D, but it looks a little better than The Card Player. There's one really great scene near the end where the killer chases the two main characters through the woods and through a lake, and water snakes attack them. They come flying at the camera, and it looks wild. Like, it's a really awesome scene and really shocking when it happens. It won't spoil anything for you. It's wild when it happens. And I really like the idea that the two main characters super invert Cookie and his niece from from the Carl Malden movie. So that part of it's really cool, right? Cat of Nine Tails. So I dig that, and there's a lot of self-referential things. There's a lot of stuff that echoes moments of Suspiria and Deep Red, but it's cool. Like, it's a neat idea for a movie. And no part of it was like, oh, this is it. Like some of his other ones. Like, I felt bad like as they went on, and this one I didn't feel like that. So I think it's cool. I dug it. I'm excited for more people to see it. It's not the best movie you'll see this year, but it's not a movie where you're like, oh, he's lost it. It's like, it's a good movie.
I, of course, haven't watched it yet because I have this big stack of movies that I've been slowly working my way through. I got all the Night Stalker stuff from Kino this week.
Awesome.
The series, the Night Stalker, the Night Strangler. So I cracked open the series box last night and was looking at, what it was. It's a really nicely put together package. They have some TV spots in there, which I haven't seen yet.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
They're a bonus on there. So those are.
Kino puts out really great releases.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it looks good, which is, it sort of took my breath away, how crystal clear some of those shots were, because I was used to seeing it, it doesn't look that great on TV. And if you watch it on, it's on the MeTV network. I mean, I love it, MeTV, but it doesn't always look the greatest. Like, everything's pixelated, and Comet also is like that. It's like you're watching it streaming sometimes. This package from Kino is gorgeous, and there's shots of Kolchak driving around Chicago with the lights all fuzzed out behind him. I want to know how he managed to drive around in a convertible and that straw hat never blew off. But it just looks beautiful for the first time to me, so I was really excited.
I think I only saw it in the very the repeats that were on CBS late night. So obviously when it aired on probably Sci-Fi or something, so it probably wasn't the best quality versions of them. So I'm excited to see that. I have the old box set, and I've obviously played it out, but
yeah. I listened to some commentary too. I'm not going to be able to remember the guy's name, but the guy who wrote the Night Stalker Companion. He wrote a book about the Night Stalker history. He did the commentary on the first episode, The Ripper. And I've listened to most of his so far. And I was so happy that he talked about Beatrice Colin. She was the granddaughter of a Broadway producer, and she was on Wonder Woman. I knew her as Etta on Wonder Woman. The version, the early version of Wonder Woman that was set in the 40s.
World War II era one.
Yeah. And Beatrice Colin worked in The Office with Diana Prince. But in that episode of Kolchak, the Night Stalker, they call her fat. And it's a plot point that her character is fat. And she's not.
Is she supposed to be Etta, what's her name? Etta Candy, her friend?
Etta Candy, yeah.
Yeah, because in the comic book, Etta Candy that's her whole character, is that she's heavy. And she's called Etta Candy because she eats candy all the 1940s comic books, right? But that's probably why they consider her fat, because she's based on that character.
But they make a plot point out of it, and her character eats the entire time she's on screen. And
that's exactly how the comic book character is, yeah.
I was glad that he pointed out that she isn't really fat at all. So it just wasn't reflective of how she looked.
Amanda Reyes, I think, did a commentary on that too from Made for TV Mayhem.
She did. I'm not sure what episode she did, but
yeah, she's done a couple things for them lately, and her commentaries are always really great. Her site's awesome too, in her book. So if you're into TV movies a lot, she's a great resource for stuff. And she's introduced me to a ton of stuff. The Night Stalker really, I think, is probably why I have such a love of horror from watching that show so much as a kid. It really meant a lot to me. So it's a good start, right? And
yeah, I could say the same thing.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to made-for-TV movies, the two movies are probably, I'd say, in the top 10 of made-for-TV movies for me, especially the first one. The first one's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeff, please don't say anything mean about Roby. By the way, he's like, she's available. Yes, but don't say anything mean about her. I love Friday the 13th, the series, actually, and obviously we know somebody else who might be an even bigger fan than me of it.
All right, so House by the Cemetery. You think we should get to it?
I think we should get to it. What time is it? It's
almost midnight, so
I mean, it's the witching hour, right?
It's a perfect time to get started on House by the Cemetery. I posted a Tubi link on Groovy Doom. You can click that and watch it, or watch your DVD or your Blu-ray. Come back afterwards. We'll have some more to say about House by the Cemetery and probably lots of other things too on the Drive-In Asylum double feature. So, see you then.